Well, good evening, folks. Happy St. Patty's Day. Back at it again. Figured I'd take the time to sit down and enjoy a pour of some classic Irish whiskey given the day. And we have two this evening. We have the classic Powers Gold label, and then we have RedBreast single pot still cask strength. Uh, this is the 12 year. There is a 10-year coming up this year, and I've heard rumors that may replace the 12. I haven't looked into it, but for now, this is the B120 batch of Redbreast single pot still cask strength Irish whiskey. And then, of course, what I'm sipping on right now is the Powers Gold label, which is the whiskey that really got me into whiskey. It really captivated me, fascinated by it, was introduced to it in the 90s, and I believe at that time you were not able to get gold label inside of the United States. There was a really crappy well whiskey bar stock product under the Powers name that was available, but at some point in time, Powers did become available in the States, and it is a staple and everyday drinker for an Irish whiskey for me. In a world where there's Jameson, Tullamore Dew, Bushmills, uh, Powers is my Irish whiskey of choice. As of late, there are a lot of newcomers flooding the market. Irish whiskey is experiencing a rejuvenation, I should say. They're really trying to pick up the pace and make their presence known, and I'm very glad they're doing so and seeing a lot of offerings come out that are stepping up the bar and ultimately making, I think, people take a more serious look at Irish whiskey. For a long time running, a lot of your Irish whiskeys would clock in at 80 proof, and uh, it tends to be boring for those that are experienced drinking whiskey. 96 proof, throw us a bone, give us even what the Powers Gold label is a 43 point something percent. So 86, just shy of 87 proof. Alcohol carries flavor, water does not. So when you take that whiskey down to that very legal limit, it tends to get a little boring, especially for more experienced whiskey drinkers. So a lot of Irish whiskeys hitting in the market today, I'm seeing them up that proof and coming in at that sweet spot of 46% alcohol by volume, which is why, something like RedBreast cask strength, which is so sought out because you're getting it straight from, whether it's blended or not, it's not a single barrel, but it is cask strength. So they are taking it from the barrels and not proofing it down, or not proofing it down that much. I'm not sure what the regulations are in Ireland. I do know it's bottled in bond, and Powers used to say that on their labels. They don't say it anywhere in the label that I can see now, but Ireland must have their own standard and own regulations, and they too have a bottled in bond status for whiskeys. So Powers is such an inviting, warm, and it'll sound very friendly. Um, Irish whiskeys, being that they're triple distilled, traditionally they would use a proportion of unmalted barley along with malted barley to avoid paying excessive taxes to the British, really led to a rounded spirit. And that leads to, what I'll say about this, and it is one of those cringy terms of calling something smooth, but when you add those components together and you get that rounded experience, I do believe that can translate to being smooth regardless of the proof. Usually when people say smooth, I tend to think they're talking about the proof and how hot the whiskey is. But the Powers, wonderful malty, honey, shortbread cookie nose. Translates pretty well to the palate. Not as sweet as the nose would allude you to believe it's going to be once you taste it, but otherwise it comes on very, very close to what the nose is bringing to you. Medium finish, not too long. It does not last that long. That's probably the lower proof that it is, the 86 proof. But nonetheless, it has a really good mouthfeel, really good finish, really good presence when it arrives on the palate, and just a classic. If you've never tried Powers Gold Label, do yourself a favor and get yourself a bottle and maybe try a few other Irish whiskeys while you're at it. Sorry about the excessive mouth noises if you hear them. Try not to get too close to the mic or do it, but I taste my whiskey. I chew it, and definitely like to get that reaction, the aftertaste, and absolutely wonderful. If you haven't tried it, again, I'll say it, try some Powers. Now on to the big treat of the evening. The RedBreast 12-year cask strength. Batch B120. This is a fresh pour, fresh crack. That's the first time that bottle popped. I took the tin off it before I began recording this, so did not want to deal with that. I've had too many sad experiences trying to take the damn tin wrap off the cap, the cork. And so right away on this RedBreast 12 cask strength, the oak, the cask, the sherry influence that's coming through on this is definitely making its presence known. We'll let that air out a little bit and we'll move on to talking a little bit about tonight's blade. So what we have here is a limited, I believe what Kershaw used to call, I think they may have changed the name, Sprint Run. So this is a upgraded, a little bit modified, not really modified, just upgraded and modified materials of the Kershaw bare knuckle, otherwise known as the 7777, or as I call it, the Quad 7. And this model happens to be the Quad 7 CFM 390. So that is made of M390 steel, an upgrade over the Sandvik steel that the original bare knuckle Quad 7 came with. Also was aluminum handles. That is absolutely 100% carbon fiber handle scales, other than the subframe lock, which is a steel insert. And it is absolutely just a light, nimble, agile knife. You really do have to give some force when you're coming down on that flipper. Otherwise, it may fail to launch. But it is so lightweight. There's really no counterbalance to it. So um, just give it a good flinch, and she comes right out and looks fantastic. Um, Being that it's a sprint run, I probably shouldn't have been carrying this as much as I do, but it feels so good. It just goes into the pocket, and there's no weight. I mean, I don't have a scale, and I forget what the weight on that is, but it is very, very light. Carbon fiber is awesome, and it feels really good in the hands. Carbon fiber doesn't react to heat or cold, and it's smooth, but it's not so slippery. So I don't know. Carbon fiber feels really good in my hands. And back to this RedBreast Cask Strength. That wonderful oaky sherry cast nose. We'll dive in here and see what arrives. Wow. There is so much going on in there. You get that wonderful sweetness and rounded pot still, but then you get the spicy oak, the toasted, the French oak, the sherry cask. I don't know if it's French oak, but it it's really amazing. This is one of those times where you can look at what their tasting notes are on the back of the box. You can try to quantify your own tasting notes, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's just best to just say it is goddamn good. And it is goddamn good. So, on that note, happy St. Patty's Day to you all, and hope everyone's doing well. We'll try to cut this off here because we're running a little bit long. And Skål!